Hey, it's Jennifer with Playmaker Coaching. Glad to be here again this week. And this week we're talking about some lessons I learned while doing a high ropes course at Boundless Adventures last week with my daughter and one of her friends. It's always great to be out in nature and how much our everyday life can teach us about the world of business and the world of our life. So today I want to share 5 things that I learned that might be relevant to you when you think about your business journey that you can take and implement or reflect on to help you continue to grow as well. So the first thing I thought about when I reflected on my experience was that, some obstacles we see right in front of us and we feel like we're prepared and we know exactly what to do because we've experienced them before. There were some courses we went on and I'm like, oh, I did this last year or I've done this before. I know exactly how to get through it. And I felt very comfortable. But there's others that we experience that we see and we're able to see other people go through first that gives us that clue. So maybe even if we haven't done it, we can watch that person, we can learn from them to give us that confidence. And then third, there's those obstacles that we think maybe we know how it's going to play out, but you never really know until you get into it or it affects you in a different way than what you anticipated. But you have to just know that you take it one step at a time to get through the obstacle and keep moving forward. And if you fall, right, we were attached to harnesses. What's the worst that's going to happen? It was there to catch me. So I have to just trust the system. And let me know, I'll tell you that most of them I did really well on, but there were some that definitely got me that I did not expect to go the way they did. So I had to just keep taking it one step at a time, trust the process and move forward. The second thing I learned as I reflected on my experience out of the High Ropes course was that, we did all of the yellow courses and then we did the blue. I think that's the way they do them. And then black's the hardest. And we weren't able to get on the black, but we did the harder ones after the easier ones. The upside of that is, hey, you get a little bit of confidence. But the downside was we spent so much time on the things that we were good at and that were easy that by the time we got to the more challenging ones, we were fatigued. And man, especially for me, I was running out of steam. I was ready to go home. So going through those courses that were not just more challenging, but they were also longer was much more difficult. So think about, how can you leverage something that's familiar because it can give you that confidence, but also tackle some of the things that are more challenging when you have the most energy to do them. Because if we wait until we're already drained or everything else has distracted us from our day, it's so much harder to then go after those big rocks. So are you putting the big rocks in first? The next thing is to know that we aren't alone. I may have been the third one, so I got the advantage of being able to see Reeve and my daughter go first before me on the obstacles, but also meant nobody was after me. But why I say that to remember that we're not alone was, there was a moment I remember where Reeve was being the first person. She was doing a course and she got kind of hung up. And it's easy in a moment like that sometimes to start to panic, but she didn't. She paused. She asked us to take that outside view so that it wasn't just what she was seeing, because we could see the obstacle course in a different way than what she could see on it herself. And by pausing and taking a step back herself and asking for help, she could look at it a different way and was able to get herself untangled and complete the rest of the obstacle all on her own. So where are those times where we need to just slow down, ask for help, or not to pause? I know I was just talking with one of my clients this morning, and she was able to ask some other people in her office to help with some of the admin support. And if she wouldn't have asked, she would have just tried to do it all herself and felt overwhelmed. But sometimes we don't know what we're going to get until we put ourselves out there. And it can be vulnerable and hard to ask for help because we want to be superhero, especially mom sometimes. Super mom, we can do it all. But people want to help. So know that you're not alone. And then finally, the last 2 pieces was one of the obstacles that did not go as I thought, that I was really thinking like, this looks super fun, was where you swung across on a rope and into like a net, and made me think of Ninja Warrior and like, oh, this is going to be great. Well, when I swung across, I had a hard time transitioning from the rope to the that I was swinging on into the net and grabbing it. And in the midst of that, my phone also fell out and fell to the ground down below. Thankfully, we weren't as high up, and I have a good case that it survived, but I did not know at this time. All I knew was it was down below. Somebody picked it up and put it on a table for me. No idea whether it's still working or not. My new phone. I'm like, oh, you learn the hard way sometimes, right? But what that made me do at the time, why I mentioned this, is because it made me really be 100% present going forward. There was nothing I could do about my phone at the time, or even knowing if it worked or not. I just had to focus on the obstacle course and going through it. And, really, I couldn't turn around or just go down. I had to complete the course before I could even find out what was happening with it. So I had to just focus on what was in front of me, taking those steps and moving forward and being present, because you can't just quit. You can't go back. None of us can go back on our lives. So how do we keep taking one step to move forward and being really present with where we are right now? And then the last thing that really stood out to me as I thought about this wonderful day, perfect temperatures outside in the ropes, enjoying a little bit of summer, what's left of it in Wisconsin, was to think about how good it feels when we stretch ourselves after the fact, to be able to say, hey, I did that. I put myself out there. I did the things I knew I could, but I also really stretched myself to try to do some things that weren't as comfortable as other pieces that felt different, that felt a little bit scary, even knowing that I had a harness on, that to say, I don't want to fall, or it's just hard to release that and be like, it's okay to put it out there. But it's so good after the fact when we can be like, hey, I did that. What are the times in your life when after the fact, you're like so proud of yourself of like, wow, I was able to do that. I didn't think I could 2 months ago. We all have those times in our lives when we're hesitant, that we don't think that something's possible. But when we put ourselves out there, we surround ourselves with the right people, the right situation, we can do more than we ever thought was possible. So I hope these lessons that I learned as I reflected back on my day on the ropes course translate to you and your business and help you keep moving forward, being present, and taking the steps to be your best version of yourself. We'll be back next Tuesday with some more winning plays to help you continue to play your position, do more of what you love, make a bigger impact. We'll see you then.